Okay. You know how sometimes you see something the government does and you're just like, huh?
Yeah.
Like, why is that a specific rule? Well, today we're kind of diving into one of those. It's about this recent bill in Congress, HR189, and get this, it's all about where the Securities and Exchange Commission keeps its offices.
Exactly. And the SEC, for anyone who might not know, that's the agency watching the stock market, protecting investors.
Right.
So we got this new law, HR189, and we're also looking back a bit at a government report from 2016, GAO 16648.
And the big question is, like, why now? Why does Congress suddenly care so much about the SEC's office space?
It's a fair question.
It might sound, kind of dry, but think about it. This is a real peek behind the curtain of how government actually works. Even something that seems small, like who signs the lease for an office building, it can actually tell you quite a bit about control and independence within the government.
Yeah, definitely.
So let's get into it. What's the main thing this new bill actually does?
Okay, so HR 189, the core of it is this. It changes the rules so that starting from when the law passed, the SEC itself cannot lease its own general office space anymore.
Can't do it themselves.
Nope. The wording is pretty clear. It says, notwithstanding any other provision of law. Basically, no matter what else is out there, the SEC can't lease general purpose office space. It's quite definitive.
Okay, so if the SEC isn't allowed to go office hunting anymore, who actually picks out their space? Who handles that?
Right. The bill points to the General Services Administration, the GSA.
Ah, the GSA. They handle a lot of government building stuff, right?
Exactly. Think of them as like the government's main landlord or property manager. The law says the GSA administrator may lease such space for the Securities and Exchange Commission.
So the GSA is now in charge of finding and leasing offices for the SEC.
That's the plan going forward.
Okay, so no more SEC negotiating rent deals. But what about the offices they're already in? Did they suddenly have to pack up and move?
Good question. No, the law thought about that. There's actually a specific section, a limitation on statutory construction, I think it's called.
Okay.
And it basically says that any leases the SEC already had before this new bill became law, those are still totally valid.
Phew. So no immediate moving chaos for them.
No mass eviction. Existing deals stand.
Still, Congress stepping in on office space, it just feels kind of specific. It makes you wonder why they're doing this now. And that's where that older report comes in, right? The GAO one.
Exactly. This new law, HR 189, it also tells the head of the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, headed by the Comptroller General, to write a new report.
Okay, an update.
Pretty much. It's supposed to be an update to that 2016 report, GAO 16648, which looked at all the federal agencies that actually had the power to lease their own space. They called it Independent Leasing Authority.
Interesting. So they want an update. What specifically is this new report going to look into? What's changed, or what do they need to know now?
Well, a few key things. First, just update the list. Which government entities still have their own leasing power for offices and warehouses?
Okay, get a current picture.
Second, they want to know how often these independent powers have been changed or even taken away over the years. And like, how much space are these independent agencies actually leasing?
Got it. Size and scope. Anything else?
Yeah, two more things. They need to see how often agencies that do have independent authority still choose to use the GSA anyway.
Oh, interesting. Like, they can do it themselves, but maybe use the GSA sometimes.
Right, either directly using GSA services or getting what's called a delegation from GSA to handle it. And finally, the report needs to check on the problems found back in the 2016 report. Has there been progress in fixing them?
Okay, so for anyone listening, maybe our age, thinking, office buildings, seriously, why should I care? This actually gets into some bigger stuff, doesn't it?
I think so, yeah.
Like, who's really in charge? How efficient is the government being with, taxpayer money? It kind of makes you think about how much control Congress wants over different agencies, even for something that seems as, basic as where people have their desks.
Precisely. It touches on government oversight, accountability, how resources are managed, and that fundamental question of agency independence versus, say, centralized control.
Yeah.
Sometimes these seemingly small administrative changes are actually proxies for bigger debates about how government should run.
Right. So just to kind of wrap this up neatly, the main takeaway here is Congress has told the SEC, you're not handling your own office leases anymore.
Right.
The GSA, the government's property manager, is taking over that job for them going forward.
Yeah.
And this whole thing is part of maybe a wider look at how government agencies manage their resources and how independent they really should be.
Well said. And that, it leads to maybe a final thought for people listening. Does it surprise you that something as, specific as office leases can actually become a matter for Congress to pass a law about? It makes you wonder what other seemingly small details, things hidden in the background, might actually have a really big impact on how our government functions day to day. Something to chew on, maybe.